Moving right along to House File 1580. I'm not going to move that, but you do have the bill and the DE in your packets. We'll be moving that and moving some, if amendments are filed, moving some amendments and doing the markup of that bill on Thursday. So with that, we will move on to the walkthrough of the DE4 amendment, our omnibus finance bill. All right, Mr. Walls, I believe you're starting. All right, please go ahead.
Madam Chair, all members should have a spreadsheet in their packet along with the bill and DE amendment. I'm going to start at the logical place, the top of page 1. For those of you who perhaps are unfamiliar with the spreadsheets that are customarily handed out in this committee, each of the little boxes represents an agency or a program within an agency. The top line would represent the base, then we have the additions, and it totals to the suggested funding level of the committee at the bottom.
And Mr. Walls, I'm just going to remind our new members that there should be a ruler in your packet. That's the whole reason that ruler has been in there all session. Mr. Walls.
So, Madam Chair, beginning at the Supreme Court, on line 3, we see the Supreme Court general fund base. The House columns are on the right. And the base for the Supreme Court is $43,384,000. To that, we add funding to give the courts enough money for raises, salary increases, and insurance increases that would support 4% each year. And then the new total for the Supreme Court becomes $44,943,000 in fiscal 24 and $46,703,000 in fiscal year 25. Moving down to civil legal services, they come in with a base of $18,198,000. We give them a substantial increase on line 16, $10 million in fiscal year 24 and $26 million in 25, growing to $27 million in fiscal year 27. And that brings us to the new totals on line 18. And then on line 20, since civil legal services is part of the Supreme Court, you add those two together, and the totals for the Supreme Court are $73,706,000 in 24 and $91,556,000 in fiscal year 25. Madam Chair, moving down to the Court of Appeals, their base is on line 22. To that, we add funding for pay increases of 4% per year on line 26, and we add $134,000 a year to bring their law clerk base pay up to $69,000. And Madam Chair, on line 30, you can see the total for the Court of Appeals. Moving down to the district courts, they come in with a base of $333 million a year. To that, we add funding for salary increases and insurance. The salary increases of, again, 4% per year. We add in fiscal year 24 on line 37, one-time funding to deal with a court case backlog of $8.4 million per year. On line 38, the mandated psychological services data, just shy of $2 million per year, is added to their base. On line 39, there's funding for new treatment courts of $422,000 per year. Below that, we have a one-time expenditure of $7.4 million for courtroom technology enhancements. On line 41, we have an addition to their base for court interpreter payment rate continuation. This was an item that was funded for 2 years in 21 and would expire without this funding, and so we have included the funding to keep the rate at its current level. On line 42, we have additional jury pay, which was House File 1580. It's $2.6 million a year. I believe that brings up jury pay from $20 a day to $50 a day. And on line 43, again, within the district courts, this is the funding to bring up the base rate for law clerks. And then on the final line, we have the total for the district courts. Moving on to the top of page 2, the Guardian Ad Litem Board. We have their base of $22.8 million on line 47. We add to that an initiative called Maintain Core Guardian Operations, which includes salary increases, any increases in rent, and insurance, and their total is on line 56. On line 58, we have the tax court. The tax court's general fund base of $1.8 million per year. On line 61, we add insurance and salary increases. On line 62, they had an initiative for case management e-filing for $75,000 a year, bringing their new total to $2.1 million per year on line 65. On line 67, the Uniform Laws Commission, base of $100,000 per year. We add $15,000 to that base for maintaining their service levels, bringing them to $115,000 per year. On line 73, the Board of Judicial Standards, $586,000 per year is their base. On line 75, there's a small addition there of $69,000 in the first year and $59,000 ongoing, and their new totals on line 78. Madam Chair, on line 80, the Public Defense Board came in with a base of $111,409,000. There's a substantial addition for what they call meeting challenges facing public defense. This would fund some salary increases, some money for retention, and also, I believe, for some new attorney positions. That is an addition of $42,725 the first year and $42,725,000 the first year and $52,951,000 the second year. Madam Chair, as members are aware, a bill similar to this passed the House floor. It was not taken up by the Senate, so the funding is included here. And on line 88, the new totals for the Board of Public Defense. Madam Chair, moving to page 3, we have the Human Rights Commission. Their base of $5.5 million a year is on line 90. We add to that on line 93, funding for salaries and insurance. On line 94, we have transformational investment in enforcement. This is 16 new positions and an increase of $1.5 million. We have a civil rights mediator stipend on line 95 at $20,000 for 2 years. On line 96, we have the prohibit source of income discrimination in housing. This is for 2.75 new positions to enforce these restrictions, and it is $383,000 in fiscal '24 and $394,000 in fiscal year '25. On line 97, we have the discrimination and hate data gathering, which would be an additional 2 positions, and $395,000 the first year and $250,000 ongoing for that provision. And on line 100, the new total for human rights of $8.4 million in '24 and $8.8 million in '25. Madam Chair, the Board of Appellate Counsel for Parents is a new board established by House File 922. So on line 104, you see the money to establish the board, which is $659,000 in fiscal year '24 and $1.56 million ongoing. Madam Chair, on line 108, the Competency Restoration Board. This was something that was established last year. The spreadsheet shows the funding, but it is not contained in this bill. It is just counted against our target. You'll see $250,000 in fiscal year '24. This actually was appropriated in fiscal year '23. It passed in House File 121 and was signed by the governor, so that is current law, and it's just here to reflect that it is counted against the target of this committee. On line 115, we have an appropriation for the Department of Human Services. The dollars are shown on line 117. That is House File 774. That is to purchase and, I believe, renovate in the Kozlowski bill for First Witness Child Advocacy Center in Duluth. Again, that is $1.5 million one time. On line 122, we have the revenue changes, of which there are two. On line 124, House File 305, the loss for no longer charging an online document fee. Those revenues currently go to the general fund. To no longer charge the public for those document fees would cost the general fund $265,000 in '24 and $284,000 in '25 and ongoing. Madam Chair, on line 125, we have House File 1414. It is the Ramsey County fine distribution. They are treated differently, I believe, than Hennepin County, and this is to put them on the same footing. This would allow Ramsey County to keep a slightly larger portion of the fines that are levied in Ramsey County and tried in Ramsey County courts. And so the revenue loss to the general fund is $91,000 in fiscal year '24 and $121,000 in fiscal year '25 and ongoing. Madam Chair, on line 131, it just is the total spending by year of all provisions in this bill. This counts spending and the loss of revenue. It reflects a net impact of the general fund, and we are at our budget resolution prescribed target of $1,355,108,000 for the biennium. And Madam Chair, that completes the walkthrough of the spreadsheet.
Thank you, Mr. Walls. Now it's Mr. Johnson.
Madam Chair, members, Ben Johnson with House Research. I'm going to make a few brief comments on Article 1, particularly for the newer members, and then walk through Article 2. Article 1 looks different from what many new members have ever seen before. This is an appropriations article. You'll notice that the formatting is different from a standard bill formatting. The appropriation language is different. It's written in tables. The language that appears toward the left of the page in the skinny paragraphs is what is referred to as rider language. Rider language is good for 2 years. So you'll see some riders that were not specifically mentioned by Mr. Walls during his walkthrough because they're only good for 2 years. They are what we refer to as boilerplate typically. So for example, on page 1, there's a contingency account for the Supreme Court operations. $5,000 of the total appropriation goes into that. That's not a new appropriation to the Supreme Court or any change. That's just providing that $5,000 of the total appropriation goes into that account. There are a few others scattered through Article 1, but if you didn't hear a reference to them, it's because they're this sort of standard boilerplate that we put in every single year. One brief comment on the number that is in the fiscal year 2025 column at page 2, line 7. You'll see it currently says $48,853,000. That's an incorrect number. The number in the spreadsheet is correct. We have an amendment drafted already to correct that. And on page 3, lines 12 and 13, you'll see a reference to the Court of Appeals where there should be a reference to the district court. Again, we have caught that error, and there's already an amendment drafted that will be offered to correct that technical error. Madam Chair, I'm going to move now to Article 2 and walk through that briefly. Article 2 consists of only a few different bills that have a fiscal impact that this committee has heard this year, so I'm going to spend very little time on them. The first section, which begins on page 5 at line 6, is from House File 922. This is the provision that creates a new statewide Office of Appellate Counsel and Training. That provision goes on for several pages, but it is unchanged from what was heard in committee. The next section is on page 10, beginning at line 1. This is the elimination of the $8 fee for uncertified copies of documents from the courts. Again, this is unchanged from what the committee heard. Section 3, which is on page 11, starting at line 19, is the human rights provision that requires the Department of Human Rights to solicit, receive, and compile reports from community organizations and others regarding incidents that members of the community believe are motivated by bias. Again, unchanged from what was heard in committee. This was from House File 181. On page 13, beginning at line 29, is the provision related to the court fees and fines for Ramsey County. Mr. Wall's description was not 100% accurate, so very briefly, Hennepin County remains an outlier. Hennepin County receives a larger percentage than any other entity in the state. The issue for Ramsey County was that they receive 50%. Everyone else except for Hennepin County receives 2/3 of that revenue. This would put all of the municipalities in Ramsey County in that 2/3 category in line with everyone else in the state. Hennepin County remains the outlier.
I will correct both of you that St. Paul gets a bigger cut than the other cities in Ramsey County. So this is to bring Ramsey County suburbs, which I see a lot of folks at this table represent, including myself, represent Ramsey County suburbs. So we got there. Good job, team.
That's right. That's what I was about to say next, in fact. I was going to
Thank you,
say
Mr.
St. Paul
Johnson.
is the outlier and does receive 2/3 currently. The final section, which is on page 14 at line 21, is establishment language related to that statewide Office of Appellate Counsel and Training. This has been changed slightly from what was heard in committee based on input from the Department of Administration, and I believe also from Management and Budget. They wanted a slight shift in who would have this responsibility, and so this language now shifts that responsibility to the Management Analysis and Development Division of MMB instead of the Department of Administration. Madam Chair, that does complete the walkthrough.
All right, thank you. And thank you to all of our nonpartisan team for helping us get this draft and proofreading everything. And folks don't realize how much work goes in behind the scenes and over the weekend by our nonpartisan folks to get these bills in front of us. So thank you. Moving on to public testimony, I do have some folks signed up ahead of time. I've got Danielle Walzak, and then I have Judge Jim Moore on deck. Welcome to the committee. Please introduce yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, committee members. My name is Danielle Shelton-Balchek, two last names. I'm the Executive Director of Mid-Minnesota Legal Aid, and I am here on behalf of my civil legal service partners to say thank you for consideration of this bill. As you know, CLS willingly provides legal services to low-income individuals, regardless of race, creed, ethnicity, gender, and ideology. This appropriation would allow us to increase staff retention, stave off turnover, increase capacity to give more services to your constituents across the state of Minnesota. And as you know, CLS is here to provide access to justice for low-income persons in need, be it in domestic, employment, education, housing issues, and others. The impact of this appropriation would not only be direct to your constituents and civil legal services, but create a positive ripple effect in other areas. For example, in helping moving cases more expediently through the court system and potentially decrease cases because claimants have representation, as well as it would increase community outreach and community-based services. To conclude, I'd like to thank you all for your consideration of this appropriation again, and specifically, I would like to thank the Chair Becker for her leadership and support of of CLS. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your testimony. Judge Moore, please introduce yourself and proceed.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Jim Moore. I'm a district court judge in Hennepin County, the 4th Judicial District. I'm here today representing the Minnesota District Judges Association. Over the last year or so, I've been the chair of the Law Clerk Committee for that organization. As I think you all know, each of our members, more than 300 judges, each take an oath to uphold and support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Minnesota. And we have a shared mission to provide justice through a system that assures equal access for fair and timely resolution of cases and controversies. But when you boil that lofty language down to its nub, what you have is a single judge dealing with a case And it's that judge and the lawyer they hired to be their law clerk in chambers who are working through to understand the issues and to make the best decisions they can on each issue in each case. The dockets that they're going to be facing are typically going to be hundreds of cases and thousands of issues at any given time. A judge cannot know it all, and a judge cannot do it all. We need good help in chambers to do our jobs, or we will fail. And when we fail the entire state. And I'm sorry, I've lost my place in my notes.
It happens to the best of us, Judge.
Not used to having a time limit either. I usually get to impose. The District Judges Association, as you've already heard, conducted a survey of our members, and they identified a problem across the state. In addition to that, the board, and I don't think you've heard this, the board of the Judges Association voted unanimously to support increased pay for our law clerks because of the problem that we are having recruiting and retaining good people in chambers. If it were your case before a judge, wouldn't you want the best legal minds working with that judge to make that decision? I know I would. I do. But we don't have that across the state. We have judges working with law clerks that they would choose not to hire if they had a choice. We have judges working without law clerks. And the system is broken. We need to fix it. So on behalf of the organization, I want to thank you all for what you have done to make this issue a priority. I want to thank you as well for supporting staff and judge pay increases. And I recognize that this is a tough year, and there are lots of demands on you. But I think that the issue of law clerk pay is existential for our system. And so for what you have done and what you will do, I want to thank you on behalf of our organization, for the judges who are here, for the judges who will come after us, but also on behalf of the citizens of the state who deserve and need a justice system that can meet the demands placed upon it. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next up, I have Ed Reynoso, and then I have Gerard Bodell on deck. Welcome back. Please introduce yourself and proceed.
Good morning again, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Edward Reynoso. I want to thank you for the opportunity to testify today. I represent Teamsters Local 320 as the Director of Political and Legislative Affairs. On behalf of over 1,100 Teamster members these budget proposals will impact, we wholeheartedly thank you. Your support for the Guardian Ad Litem program is vital as it safeguards at-risk children's best interest in juvenile and family courts. Your strides in addressing public defense challenges like salary parity, manageable caseloads, and retention will make our justice system more effective and equitable. Your attention to the district court budget, focusing on case backlogs, wage disparities, and retaining skilled personnel helps create a more streamlined court system. We believe your dedication to tackling these critical issues will foster a more just and equitable justice system. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your testimony. All right, Mr. Bodell, and then I have Rich Gehrman on deck. Please introduce yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Becker-Finn and committee. I'm Gerard Bodell. I'm a volunteer guardian ad litem in the 4th Judicial District. I'm also the volunteer board president of CASA, Minnesota, an organization that screens and trains and recruits volunteers, community volunteers. I'm here today to support this funding bill, but also ask that you earmark $450,000 within the bill to build back and sustain the community volunteer portion of the program. The guardian ad litem role was created over 40 years ago with community volunteers, but it will die today without your action. So yes, let's pay employees more. We need to, but this alone won't solve our problems. Recruiting talented people in the child welfare space is at a crisis level, locally and nationally. The open positions and the turnover, it's staggering, right? We cannot fill any position in our economy, let alone these guardian ad litem positions. Employees take up to 30 cases, and volunteers take 3 cases each. We know that 30 cases is not sustainable and it's not good child welfare. Not even 20 cases is sustainable and not good child protection. So why does this matter and why is this urgent? Well, Minnesota's workforce is not expected to grow to meet any of these needs. On average, 2 children are dying every month while they're in child protection. Child protection is where they should be protected. No one should be dying. Volunteer guardians, they offer a solution. Together with the paid employees, we add more resources, and those resources become more plentiful for everyone involved. So community volunteers also offer a diversity and inclusion strategy, providing more opportunities for the guardians to look like the children we serve. The volunteer model is strong. There's 98,000, like me, volunteers trained nationally right now in 49 states, plus the District of Columbia.
And Mr. Bodell, I'll have to ask you to wrap up.
Yeah. So in conclusion, many volunteers go on to do great things. Denise Graves, a former volunteer, she funded and opened Paris Hill Housing Community Project supporting fosters in Hennepin County. And then Michael Tickinen went on to be a child welfare author and speaker.
Mr. Bodell, thank you for
And we have Representative Claiborne.
Mr. Bodell. We told you that it was going to be timed. We have posted the numerous documents that you sent to us. We're going to move on.
Thank you.
Mr. Gehrman, please introduce yourself and proceed.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, I'm Rich Gehrman. I'm the Executive Director of Safe Passage for Children of Minnesota. We, too, are a volunteer-based child advocacy organization, and I'm here to support Mr. Bodell's request that some portion of the guardian ad litem budget increase be focused on CASA, supervising CASA volunteers. We are very concerned about the decision by the state guardian ad litem program to end CASA through attrition. We understand that 49 states plus the District of Columbia have CASA programs and have managed to figure out how to manage those volunteers, so we are unsure why we can't do that as well in Minnesota. I have many years of experience myself, over 2 decades, in supervising county and state human services budgets. And one of the things I've observed is that many of these proposals, and this is what I observed at the Guardian Ad Litem Board, are focused on the cost of supervision or managing programs, but often the benefits are not also included, and that changes the picture significantly when you include benefits. And CASA volunteers bring many benefits to Minnesota. For one, they raise awareness about the importance of child protection and foster care and of the resources that social workers need to do their job. Guardians also are focused specifically on advocating for the child, which in our experience is a really important perspective in the courtroom. And as Mr. Bodell said, it's an additional avenue for diversifying the team that interacts with families and children. So our organization has had many volunteers who are also CASA volunteers, and we found them to be dedicated and very knowledgeable advocates for children. So we encourage you to consider Mr. Bodell's request that some portion of this increase be focused on supervising CASA volunteers. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for your testimony. Are there any other members of the public wishing to testify? All right, not seeing any. We we do have a little extra time for discussion if there's member discussion to the bill. Oh, Representative Finke.
Thank you, Chair Becker-Finn. And this may be a question. I am one of the much discussed first-term members in this committee. So I'm just trying to figure out a little bit of level setting on how these bills are talking to each other and the work kind of sort of communicates across. Specifically, I was thinking about the funding for the Human Rights Commission and how we have the discrimination and hate data gathering provision, and then we have, I believe that the 2 more staff will be created. Is that correct? I looked in the bill, but it doesn't really break out what the funding is going for. Could somebody remind me what that was?
Mr. Walls?
Madam Chair and Representative Finke, in the governor's budget documents, when agencies are coming forward with requests, they do list what the FTEs or full-time equivalents are. And so on the spreadsheet column for human rights on the top of page 3, you will see additional FTE. So that's supposed to represent the number of people that will be hired if the agency gets this amount of money. However, we do not specify that in the bill. It's just sort of taken that that's what the money would be used for.
Great.
And I don't know if that answers your question.
Representative Finke?
Thank you, Chair, and to staff. That does answer my question. And the reason I'm just kind of curious about how that's all going to play out is I know that we have a hate crimes bill that's coming forward. We also know that bias-motivated crimes have been dramatically increasing across Minnesota for the last 5 years and in the state, and a dramatic underreporting of those based on what we know from the data. So I just want to make sure that, we're giving a lot of money to the judicial system, but I want to make sure that we're also making sure our funds are there. So we are representing everybody that we need to do. And I also want to just do like a context setting for pay increases, right? Because when we talk about salaries, we often are comparing ourselves to the people around us. And we've heard many times over the course of this committee that judges need increases because the work judges do is very important. But I think the work that everybody in my life does is very important, and I've never had a salary in my life that is even a third of what our judge's current base salary is. So it's hard to hear that the importance of the work demands increases, when I think the importance of many people's work demands increases. They just don't have an opportunity to come and tell us why. So I'm not opposed to those increases. I just want us to understand that that's a lot of money.
Yes, thank you, Representative Finke. And I think it's also sometimes a little bit complicated because you've got the Supreme Court box and numbers, you get the Court of Appeals and then the district court judges. And as we just heard, they have over 300 district court judges, so that number ends up being really big when we're talking about increases at that scale. Representative Johnson.
Chair Becker-Finn, I wanted to thank Mr. Bodell and Mr. Greenman for the work they do. I've actually worked with many guardian ad litems in my career in law enforcement. Unfortunately, I've been the person that's actually had to remove children from a home. It's not a fun thing to do. But the work that the volunteers do in the guardian ad litem program is fantastic. I've worked with the paid and I've worked with the volunteers. I'll take a volunteer any day. They're not doing it because they're getting paid. They're doing it because of their passion for the kids and making sure that they represent the kids' best interest, looking at all issues. To end this program would be a tragedy. We need to find a way to fund it.
All right, I thank you for your comments. Representative Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to staff for working so hard to put this all together, probably over the weekend. I do have a question for Mr. Walls, and I had a question regarding the capital investment project that's within this bill, in the judiciary bill. It's I'm trying to find the line item. It's the where they're doing the demolition and rebuilding of.
117.
I'm sorry?
117.
Item 117? Yes, House File 774. And I'm just wondering, have we gone down this road before of having a capital investment project in the judiciary finance bill?
Mr. Walls.
Madam Chair, Representative Scott, I don't know the complete history going back to the infancy of the legislature. In my time here, I'm not aware that we have funded a capital project or a local project. The chair does have some discretion as to what they can spend the money on, but I'm not aware of a similar project.
Representative Scott.
Thank you for that answer. And Madam Chair, I'm just wondering why that provision is in the judiciary bill, if you could explain that.
Yeah, thank you. I thought it was a really worthy project, and as folks know, and maybe the public doesn't hear this as much as we do, a lot of the funds that we have available this year are one-time funds. I thought that it was a worthy project that was going to keep kids safe. And I think they're also a great example of a project in rural Minnesota where it's really needed, that we're making sure these kids are protected and have, that prosecutors have the resources they need to be able to prosecute these cases. So was my call as the chair, and I'll stand by it. I think it's a worthy project and a relatively small number in the overall budget to make sure that we get this done.
May I go?
Representative Scott.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you for that explanation. I'm just wondering why you just didn't put it in the bonding bill. It's and free up the money for something else. I am concerned about the precedent that it might set.
Oh.
So, I mean, I know you explained yourself, but I just, was it even ever considered to be in a bonding request? Because no one's disputing the worthiness of that program and what they do. They do great work. It's just putting it in this bill.
Yeah, and Representative Scott, I appreciate that. I mean, the bill was heard in the Capital Investment Committee, but as folks know, the Senate killed the bonding bill. So there's really no, we have no guarantee that a bonding bill is going to get done this year, and I did not want to see this project wait.
Thank you, Madam
Representative
Chair.
Scott.
And if I could just make some other comments on the
Yep,
bill.
go ahead,
That's all
Representative
right.
Scott.
Thank you. You know, I don't dispute or argue with increasing the budget to the courts on many levels. What I do have a problem with is a 56% increase in the budget for the Department of Human Rights to hire an additional almost 27 people. And contrary to what Representative Finke's comments were saying about these types of crimes increasing, this isn't tracking crimes. This is a reporting bill. It's only going to be reporting those things. There's no investigation, as we heard earlier this week, that will be done by law enforcement. So, and then we're going to base data and decisions, we're going to base decisions on the data that's collected through that reporting. And I feel like what we're doing with this is sort of weaponizing government. And I have a real problem with that. The rest of the bill, I could probably live with, but this is the piece to me that is most troubling. And I'm encouraging my members to vote no on the bill. Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion? Representative Johnson, it's typically in this committee, I don't give people a second crack at it, but if you will be respectful of me allowing you this one exception, I'll let you proceed.
Chair Becker-Finn, I appreciate that. I wanted to go back to what Representative Scott had dealing with the capital investment program. I also have done those programs. The child advocacy centers are fantastic. They're needed. But I was going to say, I wish the money would be in the public safety side of it, in the OJP program, which is where I had funding for in the past, for the same type of deals, setting these programs up and keeping it out of the judiciary.
Your opinion is noted. Any further discussion? All right. Well, we will wrap up. Give folks, sorry. Oh, Representative Carroll.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to thank Judge Moore for coming and for taking on the issue that he did. He is former colleague, inter-office colleague. He was with the city attorney's office while I was with the county attorney's office. And I know him to do great work. He also happens to be a constituent. And so I just wanted to give him a shout out.
Fair enough.
And you as a former law clerk.
We know Representative Carroll, but thank you. You always got to give your constituents a shout out. All right. With that, members, we will adjourn and we'll be back on Thursday to mark up the bill.